Do astronauts float in space because there is zero gravity? Are chimpanzees somehow less evolved than humans? And do wolf packs really have an alpha male calling the shots? If you answered yes to any of those questions, your common sense has actively deceived you. Every one of those statements is false. Our brains were built for a very specific environment. They evolved to help us hunt, gather, and navigate a world of medium-sized objects moving in 3 dimensions at moderate speeds. Because of that ancestral wiring, we are entirely unequipped to naturally process the invisible forces of physics, the massive timescales of biology, or the vast distances of space. To understand the true mechanics of the universe, we have to stop trusting our flawed instincts and rely on the rigorous filters of the scientific method instead. The first intuitive trap we fall into is language itself. You often hear people dismiss the theory of evolution as just a theory, assuming the word implies a simple guess. In science, a theory is a rigorously tested, evidence-backed framework that explains an observable phenomenon. We don't dismiss the germ theory of disease as a guess when we wash our hands. Our intuition also tells us that evolution is a deliberate climb of a ladder of progress, moving from primitive organisms at the bottom to advanced creatures at the very top. This diagram illustrates that evolution actually looks much more like a messy, branching shrub. There is no specific endpoint, just an expanding array of different pathways. That is why survival of the fittest does not refer to the physically strongest or the smartest. It means an organism is well adapted enough to reproduce in its specific environment. It is also why humans did not evolve from modern monkeys. We share a distant, extinct common ancestor, and our lineages split to walk down entirely separate branches millions of years ago. Across the 3.5 billion years life has existed, our brains struggle to comprehend deep time. Human history occupies a microscopic sliver at the end. This vast timescale allows the slow accumulation of genetic traits, forming complex structures without a conscious designer. Life is not a deliberate climb to perfection, but an unguided, elegant process of adaptation playing out across an unfathomable span of time. Our intuition relies heavily on direct observation, which leads to our second trap. When we see footage of astronauts floating, we assume they have completely escaped Earth's gravitational pull. This photograph of the International Space Station shows how close it is to the planet. At this altitude, Earth's gravity is nearly 90. The station is moving forward so fast that as it drops, the trajectory of its fall perfectly matches the curve of the Earth. We apply that same flawed visual logic to the seasons, assuming that summer happens when the Earth moves physically closer to the sun, and winter when it drifts farther away. In reality, the Earth reaches its closest point to the sun in January, right in the dead of the Northern Hemisphere's winter. This diagram shows that the seasons are actually caused by the Earth being locked at a 23.4-degree axial tilt. As the planet orbits, that specific angle dictates the directness and intensity of the sunlight hitting the different hemispheres. By trusting our eyes over physics, we misinterpret the basic mechanical functions of the solar system. Our final intuitive trap comes from pop culture, where we routinely project familiar human narratives and Hollywood tropes onto the animal kingdom. Take the concept of the alpha wolf. The idea of a ruthless dictator leading a pack was based on observations of unrelated, captive wolves forced together. The researcher who coined the term spent the rest of his career trying to correct the public's misunderstanding. In the wild, wolf packs operate as cooperative family units. The leaders are simply the parents, guiding their offspring rather than fighting for dominance. Or consider the famous story of lemmings blindly following each other off cliffs in a mass suicide. That behavior is completely fabricated. For a 1958 Nature documentary, filmmakers purchased lemmings and manually shoved them off a cliff to create the illusion on camera. Our intuition desperately wants the universe to be simple, story-driven, and centered around recognizable human tropes. The scientific method exists precisely to strip away those flawed biases and demand verifiable evidence. Discarding our intuitive myths does not make the universe boring. It reveals a natural world that is infinitely more complex, logical, and beautiful than any fiction we could invent.